Oh, we're going to have some fun today. We're going to talk about turning pro in photography, becoming a professional photographer. That's a large subject, and in fact, this will just be the first video of several. They won't be consecutive weeks, but they'll sort of like be an occasional series, because what I really want is I want some feedback. I've had several requests to do a video like this, and what I mean by turning pro in photography is making your living from photography, not just making money from photography. It has never been easier to make money from photography these days, and that's wonderful. But turning pro, really taking it all the way, making your living from photography, that requires a special level of commitment and quite a bit of training and tools, to be honest. So let's kick this video off and have a look at what it's going to take to turn pro. My first point that I want to make to you, and it's a very important point, I truly believe this, you have to get the skills first. Be able to spin f-stops and shutter speeds and all that stuff in your head. I mean, this is just basic today, right? Again, cameras do so much. You don't want to try and come in and how would I say this? There's so much more to learn about being a professional photographer than just the rudiments of taking a picture. That is really basic stuff. Professional photography stands on that and leaps to the stratosphere. It really does. If you're a professional and you're struggling with those kind of things, I'm gonna have to say you're not really a professional. I mean, it's just the way it is. You're leaning on the equipment, you're leaning on the camera. That's not a professional. A professional should be able to teach the camera a few tricks. I'm not kidding. I've been with my peers, and we've both looked at cameras and went, I'm not sure that exposure's right. So we'll check it, right? We'll check it with light meters and other cameras, and it's like, I'm not sure that's right. Can you do that? Are you there? So get your skills, be able to take photography, be able to do photography in almost any kind of light conditions, almost any kind of environment. What I want to do now is just give a brief survey overview of the kind of things I'm talking about. I've already mentioned that you kind of need to know your basic photography back to front, right? The f-stop, shutter speeds, all of that. Yeah, obviously. But at the professional level, there's a little bit more. And usually that little bit more applies to lighting. You really have to have a grasp on lighting. All right, so the first thing, and I'm going to tell you right now, if you've watched any of my videos, you know it's all about the lighting with me, right? And I'm not talking about simple off-camera flash. I'm talking about you're going to have to be familiar with this kind of equipment. This is studio equipment, right? This is what professionals use. You're going to need to be able to use all of these things together. Oh yeah, we got one guy up here too. Yeah, he's doing his thing, but this is what's called 4-point lighting at the very minimum. 4 portraits, again, 4 portraits. But let me tell you, commercial photographers get even more sophisticated, right? All this stuff is not hanging on the wall to be pretty. It's stuff you're gonna need if you're having a big session. Sandbags. What the heck you need sandbags for? Hey, there's this thing called wind. I don't know if you fooled with it, but if you're working outside, you're gonna come across it. And you need more of one of everything. I've got 2 strip lights here. Sometimes I use both, but you know what? Stuff breaks. Not only do you need more of one of lighting gear, you're gonna need more of one of camera gear. You can't just have one camera body and one lens. That's impossible. Stuff will go wrong. Murphy's Law. If you get on location, stuff will go wrong. Don't shy away from tools. I understand budgets, but if whatever you're trying to do, there's certain tools you just need. You really can get these skills, and as always, as I've always mentioned, I'm completely open to questions, and I can do future videos and many other things I'm considering to help you get these basic skills. So let me tell you just a little bit about my journey of how I got here. Like 99.9998% of the world's population. I started photography as a teenager. In high school, I developed an interest in photography. My father was into photography. My father was an artist. A good friend of mine was into photography. And in high school, he and I decided to build a darkroom together. And this was in the 1970s. Yeah, I'm that old. In the 1970s, let me tell you something. A darkroom in black and white was fairly easy, but no, we had to do color. Doing color in the 1970s, oh boy, let me tell you how much you learn, how fast, by how many mistakes you make, how fast. So that's where I started. Mistakes are how you learn. Make them fast, make them quick, fall forward, as they say. So from that point to now was not a straight line by any stretch of the imagination, because I don't do anything in a straight line. I definitely have the artistic gene. Oh yeah. So oddly enough, a lot of my photographic training came from working in the film and video field, working on features and commercials, shot on 35mm film, real sets, real money. And I worked in the crew, and I got to see what lighting was, what exposing film was, how careful you had to be exposing film when tens of thousands of dollars were on the line, and mistakes tend to cost people jobs. So you learn to get it right in the camera, right? Goes back to that point I'm making. You've got to have the skills, and there was no way I could have acquired the skills I got on my own that I was around the people who were doing what they were doing in the film business. It was way over my head, and that was a good thing, because I got to see, learn, and be taught instead of trying to figure it out on my own. Okay, well, I've been talking about myself here, so what does that mean to you? I'm trying to give you the fastest and easiest route, because you're gonna make a lot of mistakes no matter how good you are and how much you know. But if there's anything I can do, and that's the reason for this channel, I really do hope that I can transfer some wisdom of what I've learned in this business to you, to make for a much higher level of enjoyment, to progress faster, because that's what it's really all about, right? It's like what they used to say about racing. Racing's not fun, winning is fun. So whatever winning is for you, however you define it, that's what you want to get to as quick as possible. You've seen this. I'm sure you've seen this. A lot of people, this is how a lot of photographers start. They get, or someone gives them, a really good camera. And they realize that, wow, these pictures look pretty good. Well, it's a decent camera, got a decent lens, and every camera's great today. As a professional, that's one of the most frustrating things there are, that people can get perfect exposure just right out the gate. Heck, you can do it with a phone. So to be a professional doesn't mean perfect exposure and good pictures. That went away long ago, probably sometime during the film era, when if you could do it with film, you were kind of ahead of the crowd somewhat. What a camera can do for you is the baseline. As soon as you get a camera, you're going to be able to do that along with tens of thousands of others. How do you differentiate? What makes you different? There has never been a time in the history of this industry when you could learn so much remotely online. It is wonderful. Heck, this channel, YouTube, right? You can learn so much. Going pro is a different thing. This is what I believe. I firmly believe this. There aren't a lot of true professionals making a living in this business. Ask them. They're making a lot of money and have a husband or wife. They're making a lot of money and have 4 streams of income. Right? They're making a lot of money, but to do it just on photography is becoming rarer and rarer. But I really feel there's a way to mitigate that risk, and that is to find yourself a mentor. Now, a mentor takes many forms in 2022. It's a different world than when I came up. You actually could get mentors when I was young because it was still a thing. Today, a mentor means you're probably going to work for someone. And to find someone in your chosen line of photography to work for is also getting rarer and rarer because professionals are getting rarer and rarer. But I'm going to tell you right now, it is the strongest, safest way to really learn the ins and outs of a business that somebody like myself doesn't have time to write down. You hang out with me for a few days, you're gonna learn 50 things that I've never thought to write down or would never think to teach unless the question came up. Well, if you're doing the job, the question's gonna come up because, in fact, the questions are gonna flood over you because you have to solve problems. So getting a mentor and/or working for another photographer will teach you so fast what questions to even ask. Because your skills are gonna be different than my skills. What you're good at and what I'm good at will always be two different things. Until you're in the environment and having to do the job, you don't even know what questions to ask. Get a mentor, work for someone. You will never regret it. Oh, hey, another benefit of getting a mentor, meaning working for someone, it pays the bills while you're learning. Yeah, that's not a little thing, trust me. I know so many people who have struck out on their own and tried to do this. The cost of equipment, the cost of life, it's high. You need a way to make a living while you're learning. Even if you're an Einstein of photography, it's still gonna take a while. Having a way to make a little money while you're doing it in the field you're trying to do, priceless. Okay, so I think this is a good spot to end the first video. In future videos, we're gonna talk about professional levels of lighting, marketing, business, your environment, bookkeeping. Oh, yeah, that's all there. It doesn't, if you say professional and you say you're gonna make your living on it, you're gonna need to think about these things. There's all kinds of different ways to be a professional. It doesn't have to be a studio like this one, right? There are wildlife photographers. There are commercial photographers. It's an infinite spectrum, but it's all a business. And there are some skills to be a professional you're gonna need. And I'm gonna talk about as many as I can. Of course, I'm gonna talk about them from my own perspective as a studio owner. That's what I do. But it transfers remarkably well amongst the different disciplines in this. I really need your questions here, okay? This has been a long-winded video. I've talked quite a bit, but I need your questions because unless I hear your questions, I don't know what you don't know. And I really want to help. If it's in here, I want to get it out there for you. Okay? Until the next video, cheers.